Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Leadership Synergized, where we provide guests and have conversations with individuals who've been there and done perhaps what you're looking to do, have done, and they come to share lessons learned, but they also come to provide advice, not only on lessons learned, but on those areas that you may find beneficial and perhaps haven't even gave consideration to. I must tell you, a very special guest with us this week and next week, a class act, a very high level professional is Coach Mark DeHart. And Coach, thank you for taking a moment out of your busy schedule and joining us today.
You're welcome, Kevin. I think I'd jump over the ocean for you if I could, buddy. I really appreciate our relationship and looking forward to talking to you a little bit.
What a great life and great career. And I think you and I, we recently, as part of the nonprofit Hoosier Basketball Coaches Association in Southern Indiana, had an opportunity to honor you and induct you into the association's Hall of Excellence. And reminded me the time I started with the organization was about the time you had spoke at the clinic as Coach of the Year way back. I hate to say this, way back in the 90s. And I know you're
right.
carrying a lot of white hair, but at least you do have hair in this part. There's been a lot of things take place, but rather than me do you an injustice, introduce yourself and your family and your career, my friend.
Let me start with my family. I'm married, happily married for 31 years. I've got two kids, Trey and Colin, and they're both in their upper 20s. Extremely proud of the young men that they've become. They're both married. My oldest son, Trey, has two children, which are our first grandchildren. We spoke pre-show about that a little bit and what a joy grandchildren are. Family-wise, just could not be happier. They've always been supportive. They've followed me through all of my career, whether it's athletics or as a school administrator, and they've been there every step of the way. And I think all of them having an interest in athletics, loved coming to all the games that I was involved in, whether it was running one as an administrator or coaching. So it's been a real blessing to have them support me and be with me through all of those times. Career-wise, as I left college and knew that I wasn't destined for any professional career in any athletics, I turned to coaching and teaching and spent 6 years at Southwestern Shelby. And from there, migrated to Brownstown, where spent 28 years, coached, taught, became an athletic director, assistant principal, lots of different hats that I wore, but we found this to be home, a great place to raise a family, and just had lots of great memories at both of those schools. Since then, I retired from education about a year and a half ago, and I currently work for Lee Company, where I travel around Southern Indiana and peddle athletic and school furniture, athletic equipment, school furniture. So get to see lots of folks that I've met through the years with my relationships in education.
Coach, thank you. Certainly, and I can attest, a highly successful career, and not only personal success, as you mentioned. I know you're very devout with your faith and very much the love and support of your family. But one of the things I always found, if I had to describe you, is basically Mark DeHart is a natural relationship just budding and waiting to be developed. Talk a bit about your success and being able to develop those relationships, what it meant on the court, off the court, and now with this phase of your life with Lee.
And you said it best. I think any success that a person has can be based upon the relationships they have. And whether that's with a teacher and a student, whether that's with a coach and a player, as an administrator, with the staff that you work with, the parents, the community, you just have to do things that other people appreciate, trust, they know you care. And my wife and I both grew up in families with very strong religious beliefs. And I really think that has served both of us very well. You have to care for other people. And when they know that you care for them, I think you're going to get that kind of care and love and respect back from them.
Well said, my friend. Just before we sat down to record this episode, I was on a webinar, a training session, and John Maxwell, whom I consider to be the leadership expert in this world today, and certainly has been there, done that for a number of years. But he was talking about trust. And three things, as he stated in that training session, really make or break trust: character, confidence, and consistency. And For those individuals that don't know Coach DeHart, this is your first introduction. Let me tell you, Coach, I think you carry those three things better than any person I've met on this earth in my lifetime. But if you had to look at one of those three that you believe has stood out for your ability to be able to develop that trust in players, with your school community, in the roles you have with your family, which one would you say comes more naturally than the other two?
I think character is really important. I think being consistent comes very natural for me. I have strong beliefs in doing things right and hoping that others will follow that and do things right. So it would be a tie between those two. And I think character involves so many things, integrity and decisions that you make based on the right things to do, and then modeling that kind of behavior. I've always tried to do that. I can't say I've always succeeded. We all fail from time to time, but that gives us time to reflect and figure out how we can do better the next time given that opportunity. But I think both of those, being very consistent, knowing what to expect out of another person that you're working with, is very important in relationships, and obviously character as well.
And Coach, I'm not sure if you would agree, but it sure seems like in our lifetime, at least over the past 3 or 4 decades, that society sure points and makes it more difficult, perhaps, in each of those three areas at various times and in various ways.
Being involved in public schools for so long, you have lots of parties out there that have their own interests in mind, and they have beliefs that might be different than what one person or another believes or what I believe. And you're not always right when you make decisions. You try to do what you think is best based on all the information that you're given, and you want what's best outcome for the student or the person involved. But obviously, other people have different beliefs, and I think it's most important to listen to them, listen to their perspective and what their thoughts are. And a lot of times, they may convince you a little bit one way or the other that, okay, maybe there's some middle ground here where we can meet and we can come up with a win out of this situation. So there again, listening to other people and listening to their needs and what their perspectives are is extremely important.
Thank you for stating that, Coach. And as you're stating that, I reflect back, and I know you and I have had discussions from association meetings, et cetera. And I know I have with other individuals who have coached, but it seems like coaches are very open and willing to go learn from one another. They don't feel intimidated by, hey, Coach DeHart's had this level of success, and while I may not be able to do it exactly the way he did it, I need to know how he's done it type thing in that setting. Talk a little bit about your experiences through your career as an educator and a coach to where you've utilized that and maybe where you feel like you could provide advice for those today to have them do reflection. Am I being as open as I need to be with myself?
And identifying things that you think that are weaknesses, that's something I think everyone can do. But then it's finding the resource or the person to give you the support you need to improve on that area. I can think of in coaching, John Heaton from Shelbyville and Coach Brett from Seymour while he was there and I was at Brownstown. There were all kinds of resources around for me, guys who had been there and done that. And when I had trouble with things, those guys never let me down. If I asked them questions, how do you do this? How do you do that? They would welcome me to come over to a practice. And that just gave me that same type of inspiration as I got a little bit older and others had questions for me to help share some of that information with them. And maybe they can take little bits and pieces of that. Maybe not the exact way I would do it, but maybe bits and pieces and put that together to help themselves as well. I did find once I got into the athletic director business, there were no secrets. None. We would help one another with everything because you're depending on that guy down the road for an event to go off correctly and to be as polished as you want. And sharing information among athletic directors, I probably did in a great deal. And working for the state association, I got an opportunity to do that even at a higher level with people all over the state and guys with tremendous amounts of experience in all kinds of settings, not just small town Brownstown, places like Carmel and LaPorte and Kokomo and Bloomington and a lot bigger type schools, and the way they did things and sharing that information and using that network of friends that you have is such a great way to learn a lot more and build upon what you already have as your repertoire.
And for those that may not be familiar with the state of Indiana, Brownstown is a community located in the southeastern part of the state. What would you say, an hour and a half, 2 hours from Indianapolis, the state capital, roughly?
Yeah, we're in between Louisville and Indianapolis, about an hour each way.
Coach, jumping back, you talked about you were an athlete and you recognized after college, I'm going to be an educator. When did the desire to serve in education come to you? Was it during college, or was there some thought before you even got to college that this was going to be my life and my career?
I really wasn't sure until I got away from education and athletics for a semester. I actually went to Vincennes University and was going to be a pilot. So I got my pilot's license down there. And during that semester, I think I was more miserable being away from athletics and education as I knew it, that it told me I needed to go back to that direction. Just was totally away from things that I knew. My dad was a principal for 40 years. I had two uncles that were in school administration. So I knew that realm and I felt like that would be a good fit. I did have some encouragement from my father. He said, I think you would be a good educator and I think you could coach. And so that kind of led me down that path to pursue an education degree and start that process. And as I was playing basketball in college, I would work camps in the summer. So I got a chance to work with younger kids. Absolutely loved it. And so I knew that I was headed in the right direction at that point. So couldn't wait to get my feet wet in coaching and had some great folks to work with when I got started. And it all just seemed to go in a really positive direction for me.
So how about the pilot's license? Do you still utilize that today?
I am not certified anymore and I really don't care to be, but that was a neat experience.
What kind of led you that to begin with? Was it just the uniqueness of it and just something completely different from what you had done before?
A little bit. It was out of my comfort zone. I had to work extremely hard at all parts of it because I really didn't have any background or knowledge in it at all. I did exceptionally well, but it was just totally foreign to me. I had an older brother that got his pilot's license, and I think I'd like to try that. And I'd flown a few times, and I thought, this is really fun. I love the views from being up here, and I thought I could do this for a living. A little bit more than what I thought. And even though I thought I was successful at it and got great grades and got my license in a semester, I just really felt like I missed my calling of athletics and school. I was one of those kids never minded going to school. I actually looked forward to it. Parents never had to fight me to get out of bed and go to school. I love school. So I think I just found myself getting back into my comfort zone.
I love that. And I've heard of people like yourself that really love the fact in that regard at those ages. So good for you, Coach. Coach, throughout your career, you obviously was a high school boys varsity basketball coach, a classroom educator, but you also moved into leadership functions and administration, athletic director, assistant principal. What were some of the takeaways that you had with that transition? And talk a bit about some of the decision making that you went through, the soul searching on timing and location in that regard.
It's funny, throughout my life, at times I didn't really seek leadership positions, but those positions or people responsible for filling those positions would seek me out. And so that's how I got into being an athletic administrator. The superintendent principal called me in and said, hey, I don't know if you're aware, our athletic director position is coming open, and we think this is something you should consider. So here I am, I'm in my late 20s, and I'm going to be in charge and running programs with guys who've been coaching here for 25 years. And a couple of them are probably Hall of Fame coaches. And I'm like, how am I going to be seen as leading these guys? I have a lot to learn. And boy, I had no idea how much I had to learn getting into that position and then being faced with a few challenges your first few years and trying to figure out how to handle those and start developing your own type of lead and groomed through the first several years of being an administrator. And thank goodness I had really good help from two veteran administrators, my principal, Jerry Rose, and our superintendent, Dr. Donald Neal. They both had a good background in education, lots of different positions, and they were able to help impart all kinds of knowledge and help me with situations that I would have had a difficult time dealing with myself without that experience. So they helped groom me and mentored me and got me through the first few years, and things just kept getting better from there.
And coach, I think you would agree it's one of those roles, whether it's in education or other industries, that as we advance tends to get to be middle management, if you will, and that type thing, which basically says, I've got so many superiors, it's hard to keep track, which means multiple priorities coming at you. Talk a bit about your experiences there and how were you able to not only perform or deliver on behalf of your direct line supervisor or supervisors, but also all those dotted lines that came into you.
And that right there, Kevin, was a real difficult thing for me to start grasping, because being a young leader, you want to show that you can do the job and not have to depend on other people. But that's actually what leadership is: hearing other people, hearing other views, trying to make decisions based on what's best with all parties involved. And those are things that I had to learn, and just listen and seek advice from others. You just can't do it all on your own. It takes, literally takes a team, and you're just a small piece in that team. And the one thing I always had to keep in my mind is the decision that we're making best for the kids. And when you share that with other people, and I think they can take on that same type of mentality, you're doing the right things.
I love the way you just framed that, coach. And one of the things that comes quickly to mind is, and I see this skill set in you, and I think it's a natural piece. And I would argue probably one of the reasons at a high level that you've been able to have the success and enjoy the life you've been able to enjoy in your career and probably personally. But, and let me add too, if I can jump back, I'm not sure we talk about this enough when we talk about leadership, but that's really following. Sometimes leaders have to be the best followers to truly be able to lead most effectively. And you just described that.
Yeah, I can refer back to probably my athletic career, and few teams I ever played on was I the best player. So I had to learn to do and to sacrifice what I needed to do just to be a part of the team and to that success. And I think once a person can do that and realize that, hey, if we step back and we all work together and we make sacrifices we need to make, we're so much better working together that way. But you've got to get other people ideas and take that talent from that person and get that talent from that person. And when you put it all together, you create something that's very valuable and successful. And it's something everybody can share in at that point. And once you get everyone bought into the same concepts, you're going to seek the greatest potential out of that group collectively.
The coach, obviously an athlete, coaching, been a classroom instructor, and now your approach to become an administrator, athletic administrator. Was there ever any significant miss of the coaching role that was pulling on you and tugging at you to return to?
Yes, all the time. When March would roll around every year, I would,
Postseason
gosh,
tournament.
I wish I was down there. But if you lost, oh my gosh, it would be a week long just depression that it's over. Not just that you lost, but it's over. And what could we have done differently to still be playing? But yeah, I certainly missed that. And I missed the interaction with the kids. I missed the game, being a part of the game down on the floor. You get a little bit of feel for that as an athletic director, pulling hard for your team, but it's not like being involved with the decision making as the game's going on, and working with the kids on a one-on-one level. So as I was away from the game for probably 7 or 8 years, Coach Benner needed some help, and he came to me and asked me if I would come back and help as an assistant. And I did, and really thoroughly enjoyed working with him and watching him work and do his magic, but also getting back in the game at a little bit of a lower stress level than being the head coach.
Coach, you've mentioned Brownstown Central, the high school, Brownstown, the community. It's a school system that has had large amounts of success in multiple sports over the years. And just talk a bit, having lived there, having been a component there, and a key piece in managing and being a part of that, whether it's from the peripheral, right in the middle. Where has that community and how they've been able to sustain that success? Coach Dave Benner, for example, played there, went away to college, came back, and just recently earned a state championship this year with his son, who'll be a D1 player at Purdue beginning next year. But talk a little bit about the makeup that kept that consistency or continues to keep that consistency in basketball and football. Baseball has been good. Girls basketball has been good, and other sports as well.
We're in a pocket where there's not a whole lot to do. You got to drive a little ways to get to Bloomington. We do have Seymour that's about 10 miles away, but there's not a great deal to do. These folks around here, I'm not going to say we're isolated, but if you're looking for entertainment around here, athletics, our little league development, we have youth volleyball programs, youth football, basketball programs, AAU. We've got a very committed community to our athletic programs, and that starts at a real young age. And lots of those folks through the years have felt the success of high school athletics here at Brownstown. And they want their kids to be a part of that. And they want to live through that again through their kids. So they're willing to make commitments to do what it takes to get their kids involved. On top of that, we've just had very good fortune of holding on to some outstanding coaches for long periods of time. Coach May, our football coach, has been with us close to 30 years, if not 30 already. Dave Benner's been here 28. Jennifer Shade, our volleyball coach, has been here 27 years, 28 years. Being able to maintain high-level coaches like that and keep them here has been so instrumental in them developing their own programs that have real consistency from top to bottom. When the kids get to the high school level, they know what they're doing. They know what the head coaches want from them, and it just makes that all so much easier. And then on top of that, you've just got a really strong and dedicated fan base that want to come out and support the kids. And that makes it worthwhile.
Coach, you use that word consistency again, that whole consistency and even constancy of purpose at the top, leadership, but it filtrates all the way down through, can make a huge difference in any organization.
Yeah, that lack of change and knowing what to expect and being comfortable with who's in those positions, I hear stories of other places where they have a lot of turmoil in their athletic programs and lots of turnover in their coaches, and people are not happy for this reason or that reason. But I have to say that we've been really fortunate to have very few problems like that. It's hard to argue with the quality of coaches that we have within our programs. From a selfish parent's perspective, sometimes they want more for their kids than what they're getting. It's really difficult to argue with the success they're having and with the quality experiences they're getting under really high character individuals that are coaching their kids.
I love that. And Brownstown Central is certainly a model for others to follow, community wise, as well as school curriculum and learning and athletics. Coach, listen, it's been a pleasure and it's an honor for me to have you. And I'm really looking forward to sitting here and getting further into Coach Mark DeHart and you sharing your knowledge next week when we come back together. But God bless you, my friend. I love you, brother, and I really appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Kevin. It's been a real pleasure.
And thank you for taking the time to join Coach and I. And again, I hope and I know that you've taken something away that will help you as you continue to build your leadership toolbox on your path forward. But again, I encourage you, don't rush the path. Be still, and you'll be moving forward at a pace that builds significance as well as success. Until next week with Coach DeHart, God bless you. We love you.